Right. My name is Sarah. I am Mama Essie. I'm a mom. I'm a wife, and I'm also a researcher. I'm a medical researcher in Kenya.
And I am Baba Essie, proud father of that beautiful young girl, and proud husband to Sarah. We are happy to be here with our
Firstborn daughter. She's a lovely girl, very loving. She has a very kind heart, um, beautiful soul, and she's just what can I say? She's a joy to us. Um, she has some challenges that brought us to Ability Place, or she had some challenges that brought us to Ability Place. And if I can summarize what those challenges are, one was that she had a language and speech delay, and then she also had a sensory processing disorder, which was related to the language and speech delay. So that really is what brought us to Ability Place and started our journey here. It was the sensory processing disorder. So there were many components to it. There was a vestibular component, there was a proprioception component as well, and then also some motor functioning where she had some delays. And that, from what we understood, was also related to the speech and language delay. So, how it started was that by the time she was 3, she really had not formed speech. So she was, yes, she would vocalize and she would say, it was more like bubbling language, more like baby language, or some really made up words that are not, any language that we're familiar with. And so it was really challenging to communicate. She was getting frustrated because she would try and express herself, but then we're not quite understanding because now her needs had gone beyond just being fed when she was a baby. I think it's easier when it's a baby because when they need to eat, they cry. When they need to be changed, they cry. When they need to go to bed, they cry. So then the parents have to figure out what's going on. But then as her needs were growing and evolving and she needed more help with different things, she was able to, move around and all that. That's when it really started becoming a challenge for her and frustrating for her to try and express herself. As I mentioned, she also had some motor delays. She walked late, and that affected other aspects of her motor development because of just the delays in that part of development. Yeah.
Before the diagnosis was made, I was the one who was in denial. And I kept saying, she's just a baby, let's give it time. But a couple of people in the family had noticed and were saying that needs to be checked. And when it was checked and diagnosed, I think my first reaction was I was a bit confused, a bit lost, and a bit afraid, not knowing. I've never been through this before. I've never had to take care of a niece or a nephew with this kind of problem. So I was lost at sea for a while, but I absorbed very quickly, and I think we encouraged each other. Yeah, and also I have a friend, a very close friend, who had a child. His eldest child had cerebral palsy, and she lived up to about 16, which was unusual for a child who's born with that. And so I talked to him, and he made me relax. But yeah, my reaction at first was it was a challenge. Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. When it's your first child, you I think you have um, this concept and this picture of how this child is going to come, and
Perfect.
everything will be perfect and everything will flow nicely. I'll understand what they're trying to say. They'll understand me when I say something. And then that doesn't happen. So when that doesn't happen, as you were saying, it takes you aback. I would say for me, because I'm in the medical field, it, it's not, I had seen children with that kind of a challenge or those kinds of challenges. It's just that it had never been one of my children or somebody who's close to me or somebody who's related to me having that kind of challenge. So I've never had to navigate that from a parent's perspective. So it was hard, and I think the most frustrating part is not knowing what to do, how to help. I think that part for both of us was difficult. But we talked to people. Actually, how I got to know, or how we got to know about Ability, was through a family friend who's a pediatrician who had some children who had come through Ability Place. So when we spoke with her, she suggested that we can go see a neurodevelopmental specialist, have the assessment done, and then now for the continued care, we can consider Ability Place. So yeah.
There were adjustments in the home because now we had some tools. We had some idea what we were facing. We had some idea what we needed to do about it. So the adjustment in the home was not so difficult because we had tools. We had tools and we had help, and Ability was just a telephone call away. So in terms of the dynamics of the home, there were some changes. We were more on the lookout for certain things. We were more on toes about certain things. But I would say that once we had that diagnosis and once we accepted everything and once we knew, we had a rough idea what we needed to do, it was quite a settled existence. The anxiety went down, and you're able to play with her better. You're able to talk with her better and to be more watchful. But it was not, for us, it was not a huge disruption in the schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I think one of the things that I like the way you said about anxiety, because I remember when we came and that first session that we had with Duncan, because he's the one who was doing now the assessment. For me, it was very reassuring in the sense that what he encouraged us was, don't focus on the diagnosis. Focus on, this is what she needs. This is where she is developmentally, and this is what we need to do to get her to where she needs to be. So it's not so much about the diagnosis. Yes, there is a diagnosis. Sometimes, the diagnosis may not be clear, but what is clear is these are the needs. This is where she's at. This is where she needs to move to. This is what we need to do. So for us, even when he is prescribing, like, this is now what the therapy is going to look like, these are the number of sessions, we were more ready and more accepting of what lay ahead, because it was clear. He laid it out for us nicely. He even went into the details of, developmentally what happened. The reflexes, some reflexes have not been integrated.
Yeah.
And this is why we're doing this particular activity, because it's going to help with this. We need to do this other thing. We need to do this at home because it's going to help with this. So then it becomes easy. If he tells us, do this kind of exercise at home, we're not at a place where we're saying, but I'm not seeing a change, because we know that it's a process. So it's getting us to a particular place where she needs to be.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Duncan was very good at preparing us for how long it can sometimes take. Yeah. And he was very good at preparing us, especially me. It's a daughter, And as we have a soft spot as fathers. So when you bring her and you put her she's put into a swimming pool with bubbles and she's screaming, or she's on a treadmill and she's screaming. It was hard. So ability made that a bit better for us.
I would tell them that it's a journey. So the way I think the best way to encourage parents who are also going through this is to remind them that it's a journey. This is a journey that they're embarking on, and it's more like a marathon than a quick race. Yeah, it's not a sprint. So first of all, it's just to recognize this is where I am, and to recognize that there's some things you'll be able to help with, there's some things where you need help, and it's okay to ask for help, because sometimes I know one can look and feel like I'm failing as a parent because I'm not able to get my child to do this, that, or the other, but it's really not about that. It's about the fact that this child is here and this is what they need. I can help with this, but here I need help. Yeah. And once you get to that point, then it becomes much easier to walk with her, because at the end of the day, you as a parent need to walk with her. She needs to know that, and regardless of whatever the diagnosis may be, whether they have speech or they don't have any speech, there are many things that we don't even need words to communicate. You can communicate love without words. You can communicate encouragement. Love without words, encouragement without words. You can communicate, I'm here for you, even without speech. So once the parent is at that place, then they are able to walk with the child, to really be the champion who's telling the child, or making the child feel like, I can do this.
Well done.
I can go. I can get to this point. It seems very hard because a lot of the times these children are really doing the maximum that they can, but not quite. They are not yet at the same level as their peers or the ones who are at the same age. But they are trying 10 times harder than their peers.
Yeah.
So they need to know that it's okay, you're doing great, and you will get there, or you'll get there somewhere, somehow you'll get with this kind of journey.
I would encourage you, if for a parent who is new to this, or who is struggling with the denial, or struggling with seeing their child suffering, or appearing to suffer. Yeah, they are suffering, actually. So I would say, listen very well to the therapists. Embrace them, embrace what they are saying, listen carefully, and then when they tell you to step back just a little bit. So you might be in the waiting room and you can hear your child is struggling, but just step back, be patient, and then follow the instructions of the therapist, of the psychologist, of the speech therapist, whoever it is that you're talking to. Listen carefully, follow, and work together. They will support you a lot emotionally, even though you might not realize it. Yeah. Was it a speech therapist? Was that the first? No.
The first one was actually the occupational therapist.
Yes.
And that's the one that they really, most of the sessions were centered around that.
Yeah.
The occupational therapy. And the way Duncan also explained is that a lot of the motor issues are related to the speech development. So if we don't work on the motor now, then the speech will be a challenge.
Yeah.
So he really explained that to us and why he was emphasizing on a lot of those activities.
Yeah.
But we also worked with a speech therapist. At that time, there was no speech therapist available within Ability, but we were able to get one who worked very closely with Duncan.
Yeah.
So even though the speech therapy was happening at a different place, but we still felt that there was that connection and that they were working together. They were not conflicting or clashing. Everything they were doing was really in line. Um, and one of the things I remember that was, or maybe we'll get to that point about the school.
It is crucial. It is vital. I suspect many parents will give up because they don't have that information. For me, it was a struggle. I'm not a scientist, but I listened and I started to understand. And one of the great things that I saw from this education is that I learned something about myself. I remember in the very first session that Duncan gave us, he pointed out that we were talking about stimming. You know, when autistic children or children with Asperger's, they have certain fidgety habits, you know. And he was talking about stimming, and he said, even you have. He said, even Sarah has. And I said, what do you mean? So he asked Sarah, and she said, yeah, there's something he does with his mouth, and I'm sure you'll see it. You'll see it on the video. And then and he asked me, what about Sarah? And I said, yeah, there's a couple of things, you know. That opened our eyes a lot, and we realized that even outside our home, we should learn that everybody has something. Everyone has something. And that you should be patient. It might be your employee, or it might be your boss. That was a great eye-opener for me, but I would say yes, that education from the speech therapist, from the occupational therapist, from the mobility, is that what we would call what she was doing in the pool and on the treadmill and things like that. Every single thing was an eye-opener, and we just would not have been able to do it without them. We would not.
Exercises that we were asked to carry out at home. So one of the things, like I remember, that was highly recommended and encouraged was to do, I think it's called the wheelbarrow walk.
Yeah.
So walking on the hands, you know. And this links back to the point about education, because we had an understanding of why that exercise was so important. You know, if you're just doing the wheelbarrow exercise, you're wondering, okay, but what is this? How is this contributing?
How is it
to
connected?
Speech? You know, what brought us to you was the speech. But there's a lot of that input that's going into the hands that now feeds back into the brain from how it was explained to us. Feeds back to the brain and to those motor centers, which it encourages those connections to form and to really become strong. And then also what it would help with, because our daughter had a challenge even with writing, because again of the motor challenges. So holding a pen, writing was a struggle for her. And he said, let's build those muscles so that she can have more stamina and more strength when she's required to write, when she's required to hold a pencil a certain way. So those kinds of exercises. There was another one where we needed to wrap her inside a blanket and we roll her back and forth. You know, we turn her around like this for just, again, that he was calling it the vestibular input. So we had to make those adaptations. We tried, although we didn't quite manage, to put up a swing, because we also needed a kind of a special swing where she would be spending some time and we spin her around back and forth. So those were some of the things, the adaptations. And of course then, beyond just the physical adaptations, there's again the time adaptations. You need to make time for going for therapy, make time for those exercises, talk to whoever else is involved in her care. So anyone who's assisting, domestic assistants, relatives, anybody who's interacting with her, we would just talk to them and say, this is what we're doing with Essie. This is what has been found, and these are the activities we're doing, so that when we do them, it doesn't look strange, or people don't say, okay, but why are you doing this? You know, do you have to do it here? Do you have to do it at this time? They also get an understanding, and they're supportive the therapy, because the therapy is both here at Ability, but also at home and whichever other sphere she's spending her time in. So if she's in school, the therapy should continue. It's not a 1 hour thing and then it ends there. It's an all-day thing, so that it can be effective.
Yeah. Let me start with the family one. So the reactions that I saw from family we never had any bad negative reactions. But you would know once you notice them noticing, you feel obliged to explain what's going on. And for me, the hard part was getting people to just engage with her without hesitating and without worrying, and without thinking that I might mess up. So I would just tell them, I would explain what's going on, I would explain what we're doing about it, and then I would try and tell them, just talk to her, be normal, be kawaida with her, because I thought that it would be a good stimulus for her. So there was that, and for me, once some family did not understand why I suddenly was less available. I think a lot of people will go through that, especially. I think a lot of both husband and wife, or whether you're a single mother or whether you're a single father, you'll go through that. People say, where are you? And then you will tell them, look, it might take some time, but eventually I started telling them, look, it's because I have this child, they need my time a lot more. And then a few months later, they'll be like, hey, where are you? We don't see you. So that has been a challenge until today, but nothing very negative. No.
For the nannies and even close family members, I think one of the things that really helped is to talk about this is what Essie is going through, or this is what we're doing for Essie. Because it's clear when a child has delays, developmental delays, of course it's clear even to the nannies who are taking care of them. So already you're not starting from a point of this groundbreaking diagnosis, but you're starting from explaining this is why you see when you call her she might not answer. Okay, it's not that she's being rude or ignoring you, it's that she's probably still processing that command that you've given. There's a delay somewhere and she's not able to give you an immediate response. So that becomes very important to explain, so that people also, they either don't take offense or they feel that now this child is being disrespectful. So we sort of become the people who are buffering her against those kinds of attitudes by just preempting it and saying,
yes,
we have this kind of a challenge, we're working through it. And we even sometimes would offer suggestions, why don't you try talk to her about this or ask her about this? Or we would encourage her to say something so that she also gets that, builds that confidence to also engage socially. Because again, with language delay, also the social skills are delayed. Yeah, so you're working, it may look like it's just speech and language delay, but there's a lot of other things which are going on under the scenes or behind the scenes that can impact how she relates with other people. For nannies, again, it's just making it very clear that we need to do this activity because of A, B, and C. So I need you to come in to assist with that. And once you explain that, I think, in fact, what I would see often is that they would encourage her, So now it's not, oh, why is she different, or why isn't she fast enough? But it's more they're encouraging her to do those things and giving her high fives and saying, yeah, you've done well, which is so important because, as I said, that child is really trying. It's not that they're not trying. They're trying harder than the child who is developing in the typical way that we know.
Yeah.
And so you need to let them know that they need to keep going. Yeah. So that helps a lot.
Essie's introduction to school she was about maybe 3.5, and we decided that we wanted her to go to school when the other children of her age are going to school. We knew it would be a challenge. But we looked around somewhere that was not too far. So the advice we had been given is Montessori school, or at the very least a place which has early child, what is it called?
Special needs.
Special needs.
Educators,
yeah, that kind of educator.
Yeah.
So we found one that was close by, and it was the first 2 weeks was really, really difficult for her. She cried all day, every day, and she had that cry. So that part was hard. But eventually she started settling down. She started getting to know the teachers, and she started, you could see she was more comfortable with this teacher. And then you go to school and you find she's sitting with a certain girl, she's making friends, and so on and so forth. But the speech thing was still very much a work in progress. And then after about 3 terms, we realized that we had not made as much progress as we ought to have made. And we made that decision. It was an informed decision because we had learned how to be patient. And we had learned from Duncan that this will take time. But we saw this is taking too long. So at that time, we had engaged a speech therapist who was doing wonders with Essie. And he said, look, talk to the school and see if they can let me come and do my sessions at the school. Because at the time, as Sarah mentioned, we were doing school, and then from school, ability place, and then sometimes on the same day, speech therapist, or the following day, So the speech therapist said, get that school to let me come in once or twice a week and do my session in that environment. It was very disappointing. They delayed their decision. They delayed and delayed and delayed. And eventually, we realized, okay, they are claiming to be good at this kind of thing, but we're not seeing any progress over here. So we decided to move her, and we got the suggestion from that speech therapist. He said, why don't you take her to this school, because this school allows me to come into the school and attend to the children in the school. When we moved her, it took 3 days, just 3 days, for us to notice. I took her on the 3rd day. There was a sports day at the new school, and when I took her and gave her to the teachers, and I waited on the sidelines, and suddenly I heard her name being mentioned, that she's in an event. 4 terms at the other school. I'm sorry to say this, I will not name the school, but 4 terms they had never engaged her like that. They didn't have that spirit. So on that 3rd day, when I saw my daughter running in an event with the teacher, there was a teacher who was saying, come on, let's go. I knew we had made the right decision. And it has been just smooth, much, much smoother at that new school. She went through the normal nursery school, the pre-primary grades, just improving every time. I call my daughter an overcomer, and I'm constantly encouraging her and telling her, I love you so much because you're always trying, always do your best, always do your best. I'm always telling her this. So she went through those stages. She didn't have to repeat anywhere. She caught up with the other children, and now she's in grade 2. She's in grade 2, comfortable, going through normal things that children go through. Yeah.
The way the school worked with the therapists was amazing.
Yeah.
And I say amazing because they were very open to engaging. This was not the first child that they had in the school who needed therapists to come. So they were used to this kind of thing. And they had a way of doing it where they would have meetings with the therapists, talk to the therapists, find out, okay, what are we doing? Where are we trying to get this child to? so that they also integrate that in their day-to-day. So I remember like during one of the sessions, it was both Duncan and the speech therapist were there. We were meeting with the teachers, and Duncan said, "Oh, you know what? You can give this girl a task because we want her to do a lot of midline activities. So give her the task of rubbing the board.
Yeah.
Every time the teacher finishes, just call Essie and she comes and rubs the board. So you're doing that because you want to integrate the therapy into the day-to-day learning, whatever learning she's doing. So, and similarly with the speech, there's a way that the speech therapist would communicate to the teachers. This is what we are working on. Try and focus on this. The occupational therapist as well would come to school. Can you imagine? We no longer had to. So when she reached a certain point and she didn't need like the hydrotherapy sessions, which we would have to come for here, then we worked out a way that the occupational therapist would also come to school and do a session with her on some days of the week. Speech therapist, the same. So they're doing the sessions when she's not tired. Because previously they were being done at the end of the day when she's so tired. So even the cooperation is not as good. But here they do it like the occupational therapist would come early so that they engage her, and then even the mind is sort of prepared for learning. So once they started doing that, I think that's when we really started seeing the change, and she was just, wow, we're just like, wow, it's just amazing to see her progress and even how she's interacting with other children. Yeah.
Without any doubt, that the chances for your child to improve are tripled or quadrupled because of that interaction with other children at the school. I would also say that a teacher who doesn't have experience with this kind of child will learn a great deal from having a child like that in the classroom. Even whether it's a child like ours who did not need a shadow, or if it's a child who needs a shadow, but the teachers will learn a lot from that child, and the other children who don't have similar challenges will learn a lot from this child. But most of all, your child will the improvement will be much more rapid. And I think it's because they are more relaxed. They are happier. It makes it easier for them to absorb. Yeah.
After a few sessions of the speech therapy, actually it didn't take that long for her to start forming her words and speaking, speaking the words, speaking sentences, because initially it would be one word here and there, but then now she had a speech. One of the things that is really etched in my mind was during one of the therapy sessions, the speech therapy, because for speech therapy when she started, we would be in the room with her and the speech therapist. So we would also observe what the speech therapist was doing for that 1 hour. One of the things we had told him was she doesn't answer. She doesn't answer when you call her. She doesn't answer. She took very long to call us mom, dad. I think that happened after she had started the speech therapy. And the speech therapist said, oh, that is very easy to fix. All you need to do is pair her answering with a motor action.
Yes.
Again, brings us back to why it was so important to do both the occupational therapy and the speech therapy.
Yes.
So he just told her, Essie, when I call your name, I'll lift your hand up like this and you say yes, okay? Okay. So he did the first one. Essie, and he put her hand up like this. Yes. Essie, yes. Then the third time, he didn't lift her hand. So he called her again, Essie, and she did yes. So she lifted her hand, and from that time, she would answer. When she's called, she would answer. We had tried so many times, so different ways of getting her to respond, and she wouldn't. And all it did, so you see, that's why it's so important to have like the specialists. There are people who know what they're doing. and they'll know how to approach this challenge. But coming back to your question of what did that feel like? I think for us it was a very touching moment for me, and I believe for any mother to hear the child now call you mom for the first time. You know, I don't even want to talk much about it because it still gets me emotional. Seeing her expressing herself, like today, she's a very expressive girl. She will tell you who has hurt her feelings, how they have hurt her feelings, what they need to do to remedy the situation. She'll tell you the full thing. And she can stand up for herself. She can stand up for herself. So we're really, really grateful and grateful for the progress that she has made, and also very proud of her because she has kept going. She does. Sometimes you can tell that maybe she realizes she has a challenge here and there, and we just encourage her. Tell her, you keep going, you do your best, and things will things unfold as they do. So yeah.
I had been warned by friends that when that happens, it's very, 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 very emotional when she calls you daddy for the first time. And for me, it was double, because that feeling, I think fathers have it even when a child doesn't have these challenges. And for me, I had waited for some time, so it was double. It was a question of getting her to speak, and then when she finally said daddy and she started making sentences, it very, very emotional and very encouraging. It makes you feel, oh, we're doing something right. It was fantastic. Yeah. I knew she was an overcomer, but I've also seen that she's a very gentle girl. I would call her compassionate. She's a very compassionate kind of person, and very sensitive. She's a sensitive person, and I don't think that has to do with her challenges. I think she was born like that. But it's coming out that she's also quite independent and quite strong. And the other day I noticed, and this made me very proud, she's forgiving. She had an incident last week where there was a child who said some pretty heavy, bad things. So, as Sarah said, this girl knows how to look after herself. She knows how to stand up to herself. And she did. When she stood up to herself, the other girl started crying. So there was a bit of a friction there for a couple of days. But yesterday, I saw them sitting together. When they saw me, they said, "Hi, Baba Esi." And before she came to me, they hugged. She hugged her friend who had upset her. So that's what I'm coming to know about my daughter. She's a sensitive soul, very caring, but she's strong as well. And I'll repeat it, she's an overcomer. Yeah. And I think any child who has these kinds of difficulties, if you have her back, they can overcome. Yeah.
Yeah, she's also a very smart girl, and that one of the first times where I was almost brought to tears was her teacher saying that, because of how her reading, she would read. She was reading at an advanced level. When she finally could speak and talk and all that, she was a bit ahead of her peers in terms of the reading. And also she just, when you ask her a question, she might take a moment or two to think about it, but what the teacher says, she will give you a full answer. She's not going to give you two-worded answers.
Yeah.
She'll give you a full, you'll see that she has thought through about this, and she'll give you a full sentence about, it's like this, because if you don't do this, then this is going to happen. So we love that about her, and she's also, she's enjoying discovering what she can do. We still encourage her to get involved in activities that are going to help with the motor. So like now, she does gymnastics, just not necessarily to compete, but so that she continues getting that motor and sensory input that she needs. She's also learning how to play piano. She loves singing, so she's also learning how to, doing the voice classes and all that. So we're enjoying and we're happy and glad that we have allowed this journey to unfold as it has. Because I think if we tried to rush it further, we would have ended up being frustrated. And she also would have been very frustrated. And then she may not have the confidence to try out some of the things that she's trying out now. Yeah. She's very compassionate. She loves babies. She loves babies. She sees a baby, she'll say, "Can I hold the baby? Can I carry the baby? Can we have 4 babies in the house?" It's amazing, yeah.
Wonderful. Yeah. You talked about cooking.
So we expected it, especially when she went to grade 1, because it was a shift from schools. So we were expecting it. So I spent a lot of time talking to us and telling her, what would you do if somebody told you this? What would you say? And she'd be like, And then I realized that role play would be a good idea. So I would stand up and say, okay, let's say I'm a naughty boy in school or a naughty girl, and I say, what? Your ears look like chips. What would you say? And she would be shy about it. And I'll say, okay, you tell me. You pretend that you're the naughty girl. You tell me something bad. And she would tell me something. She would try to make it as hurtful as possible. It would be like, your nose is big. Or something like that. And then I would say, don't do that again. That's not nice. Something like that. And I would do that often. And I would repeat it in the car. I like to take them to school, and I like to pick them up. I would repeat it in the car. I would give them scenarios, and every once in a while, I would do a role play. Now, the bullying didn't happen. Or if it did, it must have been so mild that she didn't feel the need to report it to us. Yeah. And when she did come home upset about what some child had done, it would be quite a normal thing. They took my rubber. Or, it would not be something that where the other children are pointing to your disability or to this, But last week, it still wasn't pointed to her challenges, but it was something to do with her appearance. Yeah. Not her speech, not being slow, not anything like that, but something about her appearance. And she just defended herself. She did it by speech, and she did it very well. I was very proud of her. I was very, very proud of her. So for us, that has not been a big thing. But also, we have had very good and close talks with her teachers every step of the way. And we have always brought that up. And we were happy to hear that the teachers are very aware of the vulnerability of such a child, to bullying. And they told us, we are makini kabisa. We are very watchful of that kind of thing. And when we see it, we tackle it very quickly, and we inform both sets of parents. So I think we've been lucky there. Yeah.
First of all, the care without spoiling, I think is so important. It's something important to talk about, because you can get, as a parent, you can get into that mode of, I need to do everything for this child. Because, as a parent, you always have the best interest for your child. You want the best for them. You never want to see them hurt. It's natural. It's a natural instinct. You don't want to see them hurt. You don't want to see them go hungry. You don't want anybody to say anything bad to them. Even falling, you're afraid of them falling, So that care, providing that care, but also keeping in mind that you're preparing her to live in a world where you're not, because you're not always going to be there. So you have to do that preparation from the beginning. There's a reason why there are rules. This is what the rules are trying to achieve. When we correct, or when you get, whatever kind of corrective action you're getting, it's because, not because you're a bad person for one, not because you're not loved. It's actually because you're loved, because we want you to be able to live and work with other people. So having those conversations, and you can have them at whatever level the child is at. But at the end of the day, I think it's a very basic human lesson to learn that there are consequences for each action. There is a consequence. It could be a consequence that you like. It could be a consequence that you don't like, but that teaches you something. So you're learning something as you go along. So, have I answered your question?
Yes,
Okay.
you have, because then you're talking about the can and not spoiling.
Not spoiling.
Yes.
And so then what is your dream for her?
Yeah, what is my dream for my lovely daughter? I think for me is, one, to see her grow into herself. Yeah, hopefully I'm not trying to make a mini me. She's got her own mind, she's got her own preferences, everything, and I want her to grow into that person, or that individuality that is where she feels she's comfortable. This is me. This is what I'm able to do. This is what I'm trying to get to, and to always have that sense of, I'm enough. As I am enough. Yeah, I may have challenges here and there, but there's no one who doesn't have challenges. But as I am enough, and I can do a lot with what I have. I can ask for help when I need help. I can give other people help. Whatever profession she may choose to be in, whatever she chooses to do, whether she wants to follow her passion for children, whether she wants to follow her passion for singing, whatever it is that she chooses to do, I want her to always remember that she is enough as she is. And then the other thing, of course, is, ability to have other people that she's, friends, or people who surround her, who support her, and who that she also, having just her own community, I think is how I would summarize it. Having that community that she walks with, and she's able to influence the world. Yeah. So siblings, Essie has one other sibling, a younger sister, and they're very close. They're very close. They didn't always start off as being very close, because I think there's that natural sibling rivalry that's there. And one of the pieces of advice we got when we were getting her younger sibling is that each of them needs time. Each of the children need, so you can have time with them together, but each of them needs time. And this was before we even had these diagnoses and going into therapy and all that, by the time her younger sibling was being born. So that already, with that at the back of our mind, we realized that we have to be intentional about spending time with the younger one as well. When Essie was coming for therapy sessions, the younger one was too young to join in, come along with us when we're coming for the therapy session. So we didn't really bring her in at that. But then when we do the activities at home, we would, if we're doing a wheelbarrow walk, when she's old enough, even the younger one will take part. And we're just doing it we're just doing fun activities. We're not saying, your sister needs this because she's delayed in this, that, and the other. We just make it a fun activity that we're doing at home. So that aspect of bringing the sibling along in the journey can be tricky, because, of course, this is the child who's undergoing therapy needs more attention for certain things, needs a lot more attention, which you need to give to them.
Yeah.
But I think it's also, working as a team, working together as a team, really, really helped a lot. And it could be your spouse, or it could be another kind of team member. It could be a mother that you're working with. It could be a sister. But having that teamwork also helps, even in terms of you taking a break. You know, you taking a breather, because you also need to replenish and re-energize. So when you have somebody or other people that you're working with as a team, maybe they can. It means them taking the child who is not needing therapy for something, and to do something else with this other one, or you're doing activities together. It helps a lot. But at the end of the day, these are the siblings, you know, you have to bring them along in that journey, because then they start feeling left out. Um, and for them, they'll not understand that the reason we're doing this is because she has some delayed milestones.
Yeah.
It doesn't come like that to them. To them, it's, you know, this one is the one maybe who is loved more. This one is the one who gets all of mommy's attention
Yeah.
and all that. So you have to sort of find a balance, and it's a work in progress, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have made sure that they do things together. So if it's time for brushing teeth, they're doing it together. If it's time for having a bath, they're doing it together. If it's time for homework, they're doing it together. Even if one of them doesn't have homework, but they are at the table, the one who doesn't have homework is going to do some coloring. So it has made them bond. We have seen the bond grow very strong now, and there's a lot of patience with each other, and they're teaching each other lessons and taking from us as well, you know. So that part has been okay. Yeah, one sibling. Yeah.
We, in terms of supporting one another, um, naturally, somehow, naturally, even before we had kids, I think we gel. Yeah. So I can't really take credit or put everything on these are the activities we did and all that. We already had that natural gelling and working together. But what I think has really helped is to communicate with each other about even fears, like what fears am I having about this? What part am I finding difficult? You know, sometimes like the therapy sessions, and she's really screaming, and I'll be like, have we made the right decision? Do we really have to put her through this? You know? And then the other person becomes the voice of reason. Remember what Duncan said? Remember he said it could take this number of sessions? We're just beginning, and it will become easier. So at least let's get to that point where it looks like it's getting easier. So having that communication back and forth, and also understanding, um, we tried as much as possible to both come for the therapy sessions, but it wasn't always possible. So sometimes I would come for the therapy sessions, sometimes he would be the one who would do the therapy sessions. So having that understanding and giving each other room for whatever else is also going on, because you also have other things. You know, life doesn't stop until the therapy is over. You have sick parents somewhere who you're taking care of. You've got this happening at work. So there's a lot of things which are happening that can easily, I mean, this can be the fault line that now pulls you apart whenever these other things come in. So sticking together, understanding each other, communicating, voicing those fears, I think really, really, really helped us to stay together.
Yeah, I was going to say talking, just talking, opening up and talking about the child, but also saying, I'm feeling this way about this. Yeah, that has been great. And also, and talking, we have a few people, not too many, but we have a few people amongst our friends and in the family who we can talk to very openly. Yeah, that's how we've managed. It has been a big challenge right from the beginning. I'll tell you how I came to accept that this will be costly, even though even though, the dynamic between couples is different for each household. But that burden, I think, will surprise most people. And what I would say is, if you can look at it like this will be heavy for a while, and I might have to make sacrifices elsewhere for a while, but it will be worth it. If you can go in with that attitude, it will be very beneficial. But I think without that attitude, it can break you. And it can be, what did you call it? Fissure.
Yeah, the fault
It can be a fault line that can even break the marriage. So that would be my advice, is to look at it critically and say, okay, we can afford this many sessions with so and so, we can afford this many sessions with ability. This we can do, yeah, okay. This it might be 3 years. It might be 3 years on the trot of having this cost per month. So you have that chat and you commit to it. It will involve sacrifice. Yeah, most of us are not swimming in money, so it's a sacrifice. You sort of sit down in that thing and you say, okay, this is what it's going to be like. And of course, you have to talk between the two of you. If you are both earning, then you talk and you decide, okay, how is this going to be done? How much of this can you handle? Or maybe I can handle this and you handle that one. Frank talk and just committing. Of course, your therapists can give you an idea of exactly how long it will take, or roughly how long it will take before you can see this kind of progress. So those are the kind of eyes I think you have to have. But definitely, it has been worthwhile for us. Worthwhile.
Message to Ability Place as you celebrate your 10th anniversary is keep going. What you're doing is, I must say, it's ordained by God. I think that's the way I would put it, because this is not one of those jobs where you get immediate job satisfaction. It's for the long haul. Therapy can take years, and you're working with that child, you're working with that family. When they're angry with you, when they tell you you're charging too much, when they tell you we're not seeing progress, you have to keep going. So we want to really commend you for what you've been doing for the last 10 years. Many parents and children have benefited, and we want to see you doing even more. Go out there. There's a lot of need. Out in the counties, there's a lot of need. Even here in Nairobi, there's a lot of need. I don't think you can quite get to meet that need alone. So you'll need friends, you'll need collaborators to have the widest impact. But yeah, keep going.
Yeah, my message to Ability as you come to the 10-year mark, I'll say the same thing that my wife has just said. Do not stop. I am aware that there was a time when you were not sure that you would be able to continue, and I spoke to the man at the helm and I told him, don't you dare. And it seems as though he has heard me and anybody else who has felt as blessed as Sarah and I have. So do not stop. In fact, expand. Make sure that the country knows who you are. Make sure that other startups who might be thinking along these lines know who you are and have some help and advice from you. Make sure that government knows about you so that you can have some kind of financial help. You're going to need it, I think. Make sure that insurers know about you and get that conversation going. But I want to congratulate every single one of you and to say that I and Sarah and Essie and her little sister are evidence that you guys are doing a brilliant job. Congratulations. Congratulations on your 10th anniversary.